It is July 2nd, 2024. We're now halfway through the year, so it's time for another monthly update video in which I'll tell you what we've got coming up in the month of July and anything that you might have missed from the previous month of June. I always like to begin by highlighting three big things. So, big thing number one, keep an eye out for announcements about a new online class I'm going to be offering in August, which is focused on two works of Friedrich Nietzsche, The Birth of Tragedy, so very important early work, and The Genealogy of Morals. More about that down the line. Big thing number two, you'll see some classes coming out in the Study with Sadler Academy this month. I've got one that I'm getting close to having ready to roll on Plato's Symposium. I might have one on Aristotle's Categories also coming out this month. We'll see how ambitious I get. And big thing number three, in my Substack, I have been writing some pieces. I just published the second one yesterday on a topic that I'm doing a lot of work on lately, namely Stoicism and grief. So keep an eye out for those posts. I post about them in my YouTube channel and in all of my social media. So those are the three big things. Let's talk now about what went on in June. So June's been a rather busy month on a lot of different fronts. On a personal front, I spent a good bit of time, as I think you've probably seen with my posts, doing volunteer work at Almost Home Cat Rescue here in Milwaukee. I also helped my oldest kid move out of the dorms and into a sublet, not a permanent apartment. And we're going to be looking pretty soon for where Cat's going to go after that. So that's kind of cool stuff. And what else? Lots and lots of events, many of them online. I did my usual Ask Me Anything session, a session in Understanding Anger on Seneca's On Anger, Book 1. I did a story time, got that series going again, story time with Sadler on Kornbluth's The Marching Morons. We did Worlds of Speculative Fiction on Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy. And what else? Some wisdom for life shows, one on ideas in philosophy that people get mixed up about, another about fandom and good and bad aspects of that. Classic metal class we did, although I haven't released the video for that yet. And we actually brought on Rob Coulter and we talked about what makes best albums actually best. And then, on the topic of Stoicism and grief, I did my own little online event about that. And then I went on to the Acid Horizon podcast just recently to talk about that. So you can find that in their channel, and I'll put a link to that below. What else? We had a cool milestone. We passed 150,000 YouTube subscribers in my main channel. So we did a little party about that just a few days ago. And I've been teaching an online class. My academic classes came to an end, but I've been teaching an online class that started last month in the Study with Sadler Academy on René Descartes' meditations, the objections, and Descartes' own replies. We're now in week 4 of that, so that's been a lot of fun. And I've done a lot of work with clients as well. Picked up a few new ones, continuing work with older clients in tutorials, philosophical counseling, some consulting work, and things like that. And I've been doing, a good bit of writing as well. You may have seen these posts about my Medium publications and my Substack. So that's all of that stuff. What else went on in June? A lot of video work. So I did 2 Ideas That Matter interview videos. One was with Coleman Flaherty, very interesting discussion about screwing up, moral reformation, the financial industry, and all sorts of things like that. And then Daniel Heber, who you'll remember, I did a Ideas That Matter with the previous month. He's the guy who runs Pedagogical Memes for Philosophical Teens. We were talking about, can you use memes to actually do philosophy? He said, hey, I would like to interview you in the Ideas That Matter thing, turn it around. So we called it Ideas That Matter, I think, reversed. And that's exactly what we did. And that was kind of a cool thing. I also did a video, which was a reprise. People have been asking me about this sort of stuff for quite a while, of the 10 philosophical works I would bring to a desert island. And so, when I thought about the list, it had changed for me. So I did a video specifically about that. I also did a Sadler Stories video about slot car racing. And of course, there's videos of all of these different online events that I did. And you'll find links to all of them below. And I did a whole series on H.P. Lovecraft's very iconic story. I mean, when you have a whole mythos named after it, you can't get any better than that. The Call of Cthulhu. I did a whole sequence of videos on that. I think there were about 10 or so. And I also got to something I've been meaning to do for a long time, finishing out core concept videos on a work that I'd done some videos on in the past, but then finally got around to doing the remainder of them, Anselm's Proslogion, one of his most important works. So I finished out that sequence, and I did a book review. I didn't get to as many book reviews as I wanted to, but I did get a book review done on Chris Bateman's The Virtuous Cyborg, a book that I've been meaning to review for a long time, which I gave a very good recommendation to. And Sadler's Lectures podcast brought out some podcast episodes on Plutarch's How to Tell a Flatterer from a Friend. I also finished the sequence on Albert Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus. So now there's like an entire video and podcast sequence on that work, covering every part of the work. I also did some converting videos into podcast episodes on Nishitani's The Self-Overcoming of Nihilism. And I discovered, as I was posting resource links in Substack, that I had a Cicero on the Ends Book 3 video that I never got around to converting into a podcast episode. So I made sure to do that as well. And in my other new podcast that is connected to my Substack, I also put out some episodes in that. Some those are sort of just for the paid subscribers. It's called Mind and Desire. And I produced some new episodes, and I also released some older episodes to the public. So that's what went on here in June. So what do we have coming up in July? Well, one of the big things that's not something I'm doing, which could be a little bit disruptive, is just down the street, quite literally, happening less than a block on its south end from here. In the middle of July, we have the Republican National Convention taking place here in Milwaukee. We won't be able to get our car out. Walking around may actually be a bit tricky. We're in what's called the soft zone, but it's all part of a big security zone based on where we live. So that could be a bit disruptive. I might also, shoot some videos having to do with that. We will see. But here's the events that we've got lined up. Now, all of these are online. All of these are in Central Time, so you do want to check your time zone if you want to participate in them. We kick off on Saturday the 6th at noon with the, monthly traditional Ask Me Anything session. We usually run about an hour and a half. And people ask all sorts of questions, some of which are on philosophy or advice about studying, some of which are personal, some of which are about current events, some of which are about music or all sorts of other topics. On that same day at 2 p.m., we'll be having our monthly philosophy chat, which is a perk for Patreon supporters at a certain level. So that's a little bit more intimate. You can come and chat with me about anything philosophy related that you have an interest in and would like to get my take on. On the 11th at noon, we will be doing another story time with Sadler. And since we did a whole bunch of speculative fiction studies videos on it last month, I figured, since it is one of my favorite stories, let's do The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. So we'll be doing that. I will be reading it, talking about what I think about the story, responding to comments and questions. Other people can chime in with what they think is cool or other matters. I think Lovecraft is usually a pretty big draw, so that should be a fun session. On the 13th at noon, Worlds of Speculative Fiction this month, we are focusing on Michael Moorcock's Elric saga. We're looking at the first 4 books of it chronologically, not in the order that he wrote them, but the early Elric books, which you can find in an omnibus volume, and that'll be a lot of fun, I imagine. On the 18th, we'll be doing a long-delayed, self-directed study video on Thomas Aquinas. How should you study Thomas's works? I know people have been waiting for that, but other events have kind of preempted that. On the 20th, join us at noon for Classic Metal class. There's an entire online class that you can enroll in. You get the Zoom link through that. And we are going to be doing an interview with Rob Coulter, who is the chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies at University of Wyoming. He is currently teaching a summer class on philosophy and heavy metal. So his class will have finished, and we're going to chat about that and see, how it went, what worked, what didn't work, what did the students actually learn, what were the younger generation taking from a class about this genre that is now, more than 30 years, or more than 50 years old. Back, we could date it to 1970. And then finally, we'll be finishing up on the 27th with another noon session, Understanding Anger 2.0. We'll be looking at Seneca's classic work on anger, book 2 of that work, where we really get into the meat of it. If you missed book 1, you can see the video for that, and you can bone up on it. I really recommend, if you're interested in philosophical takes on anger, you really want to read that book, and you really want to make that session. I'll be doing, a lot more teaching online in my Study with Sadler Academy. Link to that down below as well. Working with clients, some of whom have been on vacation and are coming back. So I'll probably have a bit more client work to do this long month. And then I got a lot of video work as well to do. So I've been saying this month after month, but I really got to start cranking these book reviews out. If I want to get caught up, I probably need to do 1 a week. And so I got to get my rear in gear. I'll also be doing some more Sadler Stories videos about different things, in my life, memories, relationships, interesting things that happened to me. I'll be doing some more Ideas That Matter interview videos as well, and we might see some of those Ideas That Matter reversed. I'm going to send out a call to everybody I've done those Ideas That Matter interviews with in the past and see if they want to do something like that. I've got 2 introduction to philosophy videos that I shot a long time ago for an online class and need to release. I already released them to channel supporters a bit earlier last month. And I'm going to try to do at least 1 non-alcoholic beer review this month. I've been meaning to get to that for a while. I've actually got 2 great sampler packs that were sent to me by Kathmandu, one of the supporters of my work and channel. And so I want to start doing some of those. And then I'm going to be doing some series of videos. Core concept, we're doing Seneca's On the Happy Life. Nice short work, really quite important for understanding Stoic philosophy. And then I took a poll last month about worlds of speculative fiction. Who should I do next? Should I do some more Lovecraft? Should I do, who was the other author who I proposed? I don't even remember. But the one who was the huge winner was Jorge Luis Borges, one of my favorite authors. And I am going to be working through a selection, not all of his stories, but a selection of his stories, and doing some unpacking of what is actually going on in those great philosophical and beautiful, literarily, short stories of his. I'll be doing some more Mind and Desire podcast episodes for my Substack paid subscribers, and also be releasing some of the older ones to the general public, so keep an eye out for that. But in the Sadler's Lectures podcast, I already have started releasing a few on Frantz Fanon. We've got some of those yet to do. And then I'm going to be doing some on Ursula K. Le Guin's 4th Earthsea novel, Tahanu, which is a really great work. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the recently produced video lectures and start converting those into podcast episodes. Anselm's Proslogian, the videos that I finished up with last month, I'm going to start churning those out. And Cicero's On the Nature of the Gods, Book 1, which I did, I think, a month ago. So a lot of great content coming your way, a lot of cool events that you can participate in. It's going to be a busy month for me, but we're going to get some time to, enjoy the natural beauty of our town. Hopefully the Republican convention won't mess everything up. We're certainly going to confine us basically to our apartment for a number of the days, and it's probably going to lead to some, pretty crazy protests and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens with that. Maybe you'll see some videos coming from that. In any case, I hope that it's a great month ahead for you. We're now at the second half of the year, so it's hard to believe that 2024 is halfway over, but there it is. So hope I'll see you at some of these online events, and stay tuned for that content and those online classes coming up.